Welcome everyone to episode 1 of the Gauntlet Podcast. It's me and Cassius.
I'm Cassius.
And I'm Tommy. And here at the Gauntlet Podcast, we're basically analyzing some of the greatest films ever made by some of the greatest directors who ever lived.
Mm-hmm.
We're not talking about a specific actor.
Nope.
We're not talking about just cinematography.
No, we're not.
Not just sound design. Not just music.
Nope.
Not just score. Oh, that's the same thing as music. Mm-hmm. We're talking about everything.
Mm-hmm.
Every single aspect that goes into a film. Of filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
And today, we're doing Seven Samurai by Akira Kurosawa.
One of the best films ever made. Yes, Akira Kurosawa directed one of the most infamous, actually not infamous, one of the most famous films of all time called Seven Samurai in 1954. It was released in Japan and then international communities later on. But nevertheless, this remains one of the, in the film community as one of the greatest films ever made, at least that's what they say. This film has withstand the test of time, and Rotten Tomatoes gives it 100% as it is. IMDb gives it 8.6 out of 10, and Metacritic gives it 98%. So, I mean, I think it goes without saying this movie is highly regarded within the community of film goers and watchers altogether. Mm-hmm. It's a 3.5 hour biggie. Yeah. So it's no mild feat to watch this movie. It's separated into two parts by an actual intermission. The cast is star-studded, at least local to Japan, and definitely internationally speaking as well. Sadly, I'm not capable to pronounce their names. That's a little insensitive on my part, but still, nevertheless, great cast, great director, Akira Kurosawa. Again, one of the best directors in the film community. He's gone on to direct some of the best movies, such as Rashomon or Ran. Again, just like a very important film to it. It was part of the Japanese golden age of film, and it really put, aside from Rashomon, Akira Kurosawa on the map of film.
Mm-hmm.
So
and another thing you were saying about it being, it's a very inaccessible film compared to many, most mainstream movies. You know, like you said, it's 3.5 hours. It has an intermission. It's in black and white. At least for our audience,
there's no colorized version either. I searched it up. There's no colorized version.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's not like just put on Seven Samurai. No, this is a film that you're gonna want to sit down.
It's a stairway of heaven of films.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And so this was I know, Cassius, this was your second time watching it, and this was personally, this is my first, and I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was awesome, and it's a film that I was telling you this earlier. It felt like a classic as I was watching it. Usually, when I go back and watch older films like these that are highly acclaimed and known as like classics by many film critics, I have more of like a unbiased going into them. I'm neutral. It's not like I have a nostalgic attachment to them because I'm younger, obviously. So. But going into this movie, as I was watching and experiencing it, it felt like a classic. It felt like a film, like you said, that is withstanding the test of time. Like it's so timeless. And I think a lot of that has to do with the characters that Kurosawa has written in this film. I mean, they are just so great and memorable, and each character plays off each other so well. The dynamics are just so interesting to see play out, and the way that Kurosawa kind of balances these different genres of comedy, romance, action, war, all into one huge epic film is just so impressive, and the way he pulls it off is just honestly masterfully. Agreed. I mean, like, it's masterfully done.
Agreed.
And other films that come to mind when I think of perfect balancing of different genres are like either Bong Joon-ho's Parasite or The Lighthouse, or things where the comedy doesn't take away from the intensity and vice versa. And that is not easy to pull off. And again, that has to go in with the brilliant characters. What'd you think of the characters, Cassius?
Well, just for a quick time before I go into the characters, I just want to dissect the storyline itself as well, just so people understand when they watch this. Just real quick, just a quick synopsis. This film is basically about a group of peasant farmers who are they catch wind of a group of warriors or bandits who want to raid their village and take all their crops, pillage, do the usual bandit stuff. And in a moment of haste, they go out to a nearest city they can, and they look out to hire samurai and defend their city against these bandits. And from there on, there is 7 samurai who are hired, and from there on, adventure, romance, action, comedy, like Tommy said before, all unfold. So again, just with the characters in mind, obviously, as the film title suggests, there are 7 samurai, and there are a couple main villagers too, who act as like central story figures to the plot. But I think what especially is very I think more contemporary for people to understand this filmed with. And I was actually going to tell you this, Tommy, when you watch this, but I didn't want to spoil it necessarily. But like a great comparison to this, contemporarily speaking, is Avengers. If you ask me, is like, because again, this movie is about hiring a group of people to defend a town from an impending threat, who are going to destroy their very livelihood, so they have to hire these warriors to defend themselves.
And this kind of idea in this film, like if it were to come out today, I would probably say like, oh, it's full of cliches and stuff. But you got to realize this was made in 1954.
This is like the beginning of it.
It's so influential, and you can say so many of these things. Like even oh my gosh, I can't. Director of Star Wars movies.
Yes,
Lucas.
George Lucas. George Lucas.
Yep. George Lucas. He. This is Kurosawa is one of his favorite directors, and he has Seven Samurai.
One of the best westerns ever made. Actually called Magnificent Seven, is directly based off of this movie.
Yes, exactly. And Lucas actually took tropes from Seven Samurai with the wipe transitions you see throughout the movie. Like that's he took that and he implemented it into his Star Wars movie. So like this film is very. I mean, you could feel the influence through like as you're experiencing these sequences of events and seeing these things. Even the scene when they're trying to test the samurais as they're walking in, he has the guy stand out with the stick, like waiting to barge them. Like if that would happen in a movie, in 2020, you'd be like, oh, it's probably, it's taking off something. But this is like, it feels fresh.
Yeah,
it feels fresh.
It's almost original, if you will.
Yeah, clever, right? And it adds all the more, shows creativity of Kurosawa's writing.
It's a very charming movie,
and it's charming. Yes, and a lot of the charm also comes from the characters and their performances. This is throughout the film, it's got a lot of different tones, right? It's got a lot of different genres going for it, but overall, like it's fairly dark. It's got a lot of gruesome scenes, a lot of violence, but a lot of that charm that you're talking about is coming from the facial expressions of a lot of the characters and their performances, and a lot of the humor is coming from we're laughing with these characters, so we're getting even more attached to these characters. We're living through these like horrible sequence of events that are going on, but they're still having fun in certain parts, and that's even adds more of a engagement with the audience.
Agreed. And like I think what was very interesting with this movie is it was very intimate in a sense because there was a lot of character involvement and character involvement between the audience member and the character themselves. Like you're saying, like you're laughing with the characters. Like it was a very personal movie. Like I got very attached to the characters because written and not only just well written, but like just well performed. I mean, we could talk about the acting all day long, let alone just its own subject. But like it just, especially with this movie itself, like it's just outstanding performances from I think almost everybody. Especially one of the characters, my personal favorite character in the movie was the drunken samurai who wasn't really a samurai, but like he carried the big sword around. Yeah, I think he was a great character in the movie.
And I love how he was the only one who they left behind.
Yeah, because he ended up being
exactly. And he ended up being more. Yeah, he ended up being more of like a leader. I love how Kurosawa kind of wrote that around there. He's such a entertaining character. He's a great entertaining.
And
Tommy,
you mentioned before too about like the tones of this movie and how it jumps up around. And I was thinking when I was watching the movie too, because especially with the dark subject matter of these bandits coming over and raiding the town, I think this movie in a lot of ways is very much a war movie. Again, this is a 1954 Japanese film, so this is post World War II, and it's very important to take into context the historical scenario that Kurosawa came from. Actually, the character, my favorite character that I just mentioned to you before, he was an ex World War II vet. This movie is swimming in the wake of World War II. And it's very personal in that sense for Akira Kurosawa and for the cast and everybody else. So you really get a sense of just like. Again, like it's very much a war movie if you ask me. Like the characters deal in the costs of war and exactly what this type of battle ensues. Like it's very interesting because you go from the beginning of the movie, right, and you see these villagers who are trying to go out and seeking their defense and their security. But it goes near the end of the movie, like you see the town gets ranked up and there's walls all over it. They're all well armed. Like everyone is ready for battle, and they all perform battle successfully. Because spoiler alert, they win. They win. But
they win.
But again, I think also now we're going to delve into themes here real quick, Tommy, if you don't mind. But but I think again, war movie, and it deals with the costs of war and battle itself. Because at the end of the movie, the remaining samurai, because a few of them die. I'm sorry, Mr. Rivers, if you're listening to this, anybody else, but a few samurai die, and the problem that the remaining samurai deal with is when they're seeing the townspeople celebrate. Remember, one of the samurai says to the other one, he says, "For them, they win, and for us, we lose."
We
lose.
Like
they may have won this battle, but we haven't. And it's again, like I think war is a very personal subject matter for the Japanese, especially after the war. I mean, it was a personal subject matter for everybody in the world. I mean, World War II wreaked havoc on the entire world, hence the name. So go ahead, Tommy.
Oh, and going back to what you said about kind of the scenes where people are dying and like all the war, all the violence is going on. These deaths, they don't feel like they feel impactful. They feel meaningful, and a lot of reason that goes to when they're marking off, the deaths of each soldier. I love that so much
too.
Because in so many other like. Let's say pick a movie like Infinity War, right? Where you got these scenes where they're just mowing down these aliens, but like you don't really feel much from it because you don't know these aliens, you don't know the history of them. There's really no emotional attachment whatsoever. It's just kind of like it gets a bit repetitive. Not anything to diss on Infinity War for. I love that movie, but in this movie, because he's got that kind of charted out with 30 warriors, bandits that they have to take down, it adds all the more like when someone dies, you're like, yes, exactly. There's stakes, there's consequences, and I love how even through all the fight scenes, the way it's shot, how it's very chaotic. A lot of time you don't know like what's going on, like you don't know, like two people are attacking each other, but it's like the guy who died, was he good or bad? Like you can't even tell because there's all this like rain on the camera and it's so like crazy. And then after these fight scenes, you have the awesome parts where it goes back to the samurai marking off the X's, and every time he marks off an X, you're like, yes. It's almost like you're reliving those moments when those bandits were killed, right? Because you don't remember exactly how many were killed. And you're like, oh, he's still going, he's marking them down, and it's almost like, it's just so. And again, that goes into great writing by Kurosawa. I mean, like it's just it's great how he wrote around this, or when it could have gone down a way where it's like the fight scenes don't really feel all that meaningful or impactful. The way that he wrote it and incorporating that kind of spreadsheet, if we will, or that list, is just genius.
Agreed.
In my opinion.
I think what's interesting too, I thought the same exact thing actually when I was watching the movie, and if anything, like this is even going back to what you're saying way earlier, Tommy, about like how the kid holding the stick to test the samurai, or the badass samurai comes in with the sword and kills 3 bandits by himself. Like all these like really like I think noticeable Hollywood tropes to us today, which were very very new to 1954. Goes to even then, like you're saying with the marking off the bandits, is like there's like tropes, like you're saying in Infinity War and many action movies where our main cast of heroes take on endless swarms of armies, and it's just kind of like numbing to a sense. But but if anything, it's kind of like subverted in the movie because the townspeople, if anything, is the swarm. Like you don't really know how many townspeople there are, but you know exactly how many bandits there are and how many enemies they must take down. And I think there's a very delicate balance in a sense because nevertheless, though, every death that happens on the good guy's side is still very impactful, even though there's a swarm of townspeople. Like Kurosawa takes moments in the movie during the battle scenes to focus on the fallen townspeople, and especially the samurai who perish as well. But nevertheless, though, you feel the impact of everyone's death. Like death is at least on the good guy's side, and this is this is kind of alluding to what I want to get into later. But nevertheless, though, I think like Kurosawa takes a special attention to the good guys, and whenever a good guy falls, it's felt. Like the death in this movie amongst the characters themselves is a very painful topic. The romance part of the movie, the woman in the movie, the lady in the movie, seeks a romantic relationship with a samurai for the very reason of she might die the next day.
And when these things are happening, everything feels so real. Even in that scene, when she's trying to, have that last, final moment with that samurai before, before the day of the huge battle, your mind's racing with these thoughts. Like you're thinking of what these people are doing during these war times, and this is another one of the films. Our last episode, actually, we're going to talk about Come and See, which is another war film, which I'm going to connect back with Seven Samurai because I think there's a lot of similarities. Which is another film that everything. The way that it's filmed, everything feels so real. So your mind, it's such a imaginative world.
It's a very immersive one.
Yes, exactly. And even the scene when he's on the horse and the horse goes on without him. You're just like, oh my gosh, like you just think of other warriors and wars who are just like struggling with the horses. At least those are thoughts that are going to my head. But it's different for each viewer because Kurosawa builds a world that feels so real and imaginative, but a lot of the shots are actually like pretty like tight framed, but he uses his wide shots very very meticulously. Whether it's the final shot where you have this beautiful wide shot and then it kind of zooms into a mid kind of wide on those last four graves, the way that he frames his shots, whether it's peeking through a fence, through to warriors, he really uses even the production design and the things around it to his advantage to further immerse the viewer into this world that he's building.
And I think like his cinematography especially, we can talk about the importance of Kurosawa as a director in his films again all day long, but like another director who he heavily inspired is Steven Spielberg. And there's a scene in Jaws, I love Jaws, Tommy, you know this. There's a scene in Jaws where Brody, the chief, is on a beach, and right beside him, Brody is on the right side of the frame. His face is on the right side of the frame. On the open space to his left, there comes like a civilian who asks him a question. Long story short, it's supposed to signal distraction and stuff. But the point being, there's a split frame between Brody on the right and the civilian on the left, and you see that in this movie where right in the beginning, where the civilians are dwelling in the fact that there are bandits about to come to them. I don't know if you recall, Tommy, but they're on a circle, right? They're all hunched over, crying. And I think I forget the man's name. It starts with an R. One of the villagers.
Rakiti?
Yes.
Chidi, something like that. Yeah.
Like he's all angry. He's frothing. He's like, we gotta do something. And he's on the left side of the frame, and it's split frame between him and the rest of the community. Like there's a lot of innovative shots that are just again just speak to the importance of this movie and the innovation of this movie. Nevertheless, that echoes throughout. Also, so yeah.
Another thing about that scene when they're all in the circle is that we talk touching a bit more on the acting. The extras are awesome in this movie. Oh yeah, they really are awesome. None of them no one's given a weak performance. In my eyes.
No one at all.
It's everything. And again, when you're getting great performances from actors, that hints at great direction. From Kurosawa, and the way that he. Whether it's directing the actors or directing the action scenes, everything just feels so... There's not one shot that feels out of place, There's not one cut that feels out of place. I do have one, actually. Oh. There's one edit.
Okay.
There's one edit.
What's
There's
up?
one
I do
moment.
too. I want to hear yours.
Okay. There's one moment that is my only flaw with the whole movie. It's when the drunken samurai, he picks up the kid. And he kind of has that moment like, oh, this was me when I was a kid. And then it just cuts right after that. But I was feeling those emotions. I was like, oh, like I was actually feeling attachment, me getting close to his character. But then it was like a quick edit to the next scene. Like it was a swipe. Like if it was just like 5 more seconds more. Like because after that, it was like a shot of him carrying the child and be like, oh, this was me when I was a kid. And then it goes to like the wheel on fire, that huge wheel on fire. And it's on there for like a few seconds. But then it just cuts right after that. If it was just like 5 or 10 more seconds more on that frame, I feel like the emotions would have gotten more closer because it was like building up the emotions for me. In that scene, I was getting closer to his character, more know about his history, which is awesome. But that was my only flaw. But what were you?
my one flaw, it was a jarring edit, if you ask me, was the introduction to like the best swordsman, the guy with the narrow face. Who went off and like killed like 3 bandits and came back with a musket all by himself. So the introduction to his character when he's dueling the guy, which again, another great duel. Again,
awesome. That was awesome.
But like when it went from, to those who don't know what I'm talking about, there's a duel between one of the 7 samurai who goes against just some throwaway character, if you will. Like they're dueling with bamboo sticks, and the throwaway character not misses, but like he doesn't necessarily successfully strike the 7th or samurai, and the 7th samurai is like, I won, and the throwaway character is like, oh no, you didn't. So they challenge him to a duel in real steel instead of bamboo sticks, and right when that happens, right, I think in a way that Kurosawa was trying to like communicate, I guess the severity of the situation definitely changed to a degree, a more higher degree. He went to a wider frame shot because he was doing I forget, like a call and reverse shot between the audience and all the community watching the duel and then the duel itself. So he went from point is he got to a wider point, and he did like a weird like 180 break because do you know the rule of 180?
Really? Remind me.
So it's basically when two characters are talking in film, like you have to stay on a 180 line per se. Like I'm filming over my right shoulder, and then I switch to the next shot, and it's over the characters. It's over to the next person's left shot. So so like there was like a symmetry between 180 between what he was having when there was a bamboo duel, but then when it went to when it went to a sword duel, he went to a really wide shot. And it broke the 180. And I'm not a stickler for like concrete rules. Really? And I'm not like I'm not gonna talk down to Kurosawa for doing it. Yeah. And it might again he wants to talk about the magnitude of the situation. Yeah. But like it was a little jarring because it broke the direction of where I was supposed to look. Because I looked right in front of me, and I didn't necessarily see the duel, and I was like, "What the hell's happening?" Yeah. Point is, it was a little jarring. I'm getting a little deep.
Okay, well, I love that wide shot. Actually, I really love how it goes that because when it's going between the two of them, right? Mm-hmm. It's obviously building tension, and I love how it goes back to the audience, and you could just stay on the audience's face for 15 seconds, and it doesn't feel boring at all because you still feel the tension from what's going on. I love how he's able to direct that. But when it cuts to that wide shot, I really like it because especially after when he falls over, it's like you got two things, like you got some things going on at once. You got the samurai who's like finishing off his sword, he's walking away, and then you got on the left side, you got the guy who just fell, and people are kind of treating to him, coming to him, and then you got the other people in the background kind of reacting to everything. So I really like how I love when a direction can just cut to it wide without coming back between a bunch of things and tell us everything that we need to know about the scene. So I think that's why I really like it. I'd have to watch it again.
I think I know what you're talking about. Cut. And that wasn't necessarily my problem. It was a few seconds before. Like it's hard to explain. I can't necessarily paint the picture, but but I get what you're saying. And it's funny you talk about the tension too, because again we can talk about the importance of Kurosawa. Kurosawa inspired like the following Italian Western directors before him or after him rather, like Sergio Leone, like. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly was that director Sergio Leone is a huge Akira Kurosawa fan. Like you can pull the duel between the samurai and the throwaway character is I think extremely resilient.
And when you're watching that duel and you remember, this was filmed in 1954 before so many of these other films that it influenced, seeing the guy fall over, right? Like he's just standing there for like 10 seconds and then he just falls over. If you see that in a newer movie, it's like, all right, whatever. But you see it in this one, it just like, yes, you're like, this is the one that started all like that classic like fall over, thing.
But it's not bad, and that's the best part about it. It's not bad. So well.
Oh, it really does. Again, that goes into it being such a timeless film because when you have the context of being it so old, classic, influential film. Just seeing these things play out that you see resembled in other films that you know of makes it all the more awesome. Yeah, really. Agreed.
So Tommy, I want to talk to you about the theme of this movie. Focus on it.
I'm especially. Not too Yeah. I've only seen it once, so like this is my first time, so I'm not too.
I get it.
I don't know the specific themes, but we can talk about it. I'm sure we'll get some.
A few things I picked up on is this movie. I think was a very like. I'm reading The Republic by Plato, and in the beginning of The Republic, he talks about justice, and is justice an important thing per se, because does it have any inherent benefits or whatever? And one guy argues in the book there is no benefit to justice because there's no material gain from it, and then the other guy argues there is absolute benefit from justice. I don't necessarily know the argument yet for the argument for justice, but this ties into the movie because the villagers, as we know, are peasants, right? They have no money to offer to the samurais. They're just going on basically food. They're offering them just meals to fight for them, and when the villagers go into the city to hire samurai and they start asking people, their initial response from the samurai walking around the street is, "How dare you insult me with such a petty offer? Yeah. You're offering me with food? Who do you think I am? I'm more honored than that." And they're all passing up this scenario, the situation to be just and moral people for material benefits, and since there's no material benefit for it, they're rejecting it. And I think especially this movie focuses on the benefits of justice, although be it there are no material benefits from it, because if you think about it, at the end of the movie, just again as the two samurai discussed, the villagers may have won, but the samurai lost. They lost their samurai. They suffered again traumatic battle experiences. Like there is no benefit on the samurai's end for accepting this task to defend this town from warriors, but they do it nevertheless for the moral benefit, for the moral reason. And I think it's a very interesting concept because this idea of moral obligation is a very heavy one in this movie, and it can be seen a lot within the movie. Like again, accepting the task of defending the city, or even in I've drawn a blank, but you know what I'm saying. Like, it's very interesting again because Kurosawa draws from a very interesting time in Hollywood where the westerns that he loved, like John Ford westerns, are again very black and white movies. There are good guys and there are bad guys, and there's no dispute about it. And Akira Kurosawa kind of like, he almost discusses between it. Like he almost like because you can't necessarily blame the samurai for rejecting such a task, because again there's no benefit from it. But what do you think?
And even what you're saying about how he kind of, there's not really, even though yes there are kind of per se like clear good guys and bad guys, it's kind of like not as clear as in most other movies. I think that's also shown as what I was saying before in the fight scenes, how everything's so chaotic and everyone kind of meshes together. So it's kind of like, you know, he's trying to say, you know, like these are all just people fighting and killing each other, and it's just all this, it just exposes the violence, really the nature of war, right? And another theme that I guess it's more of a motif, but I love the way he uses flowers. Like there's so many things that happens in the when the younger samurai, when he's in the so many things happen in the flowers, like he's like crying with the girl, they're laughing, they're in fear, like there's so many different emotions and tones that and scenes that happen in flowers, and it's kind of like shows that, you know, like what are flowers are like these things I would consider beautiful, right? So it's like all these things, there's like a hidden beauty almost within these different ideas or these different things of life, which are also, you know, rooted in nature, which can be shown through the flowers or whatever. So like, I love the way he uses so many different things in the film to kind of portray or have motifs that portray these different themes.
I think it's important. I think it's an important. I think the fact that that he explored such I guess natures of man, like, you know, fear, love, joy, even
everything
amidst such a chaotic time, you know, wartime. I think speaks to Kurosawa's ideas of war in general. Again, this is, I think, a war movie, and post World War II, like Kurosawa is almost contemplating, I guess, like the benefits of war, and there is really one of the I think a very beautiful scene in the movie is when the drunk samurai finds all the weapons and armor from the past samurais that were defeated by the villagers. He brings it into the hut, and they're all disgraced by the fact that he's wearing the armor. And he's like, "What's the problem, guys? You wanted weapons and spears and armors. Here it is." And they all tell him, "How dare you wear their armor? They're past samurais." And he goes on, and the drunken samurai goes on a long rant as to how can you blame the villagers for killing the samurai, because you guys are the very reason why they're killing samurai. You put them in such a terrible position to defend for themselves, to be fearful, to be cowardice, and all these type of he I think Kurosawa is pointing the finger at such violent ambitions of man for
and almost like the hypocrisy of it all, right? And how
I'm sorry.
No, you can go. You can go.
I think he's pointing the finger, and like you're saying, like the hypocrisies of man that come about because of these violent intuitions that we have, and we kind of we dig our own grave is basically what he's saying. Like, we make the bed and we're sleeping in it, and we complain about it, but like it's our own fault. At the end of the day, it's no one else's fault but ours.
Yeah. Again, and that's what makes it so timeless, because these things are still seen today, right? And that's what like if this was only relevant to that specific war, that specific time in Japan, then it wouldn't be as popular. But because so many different themes are explored among, you know, human nature, mankind, and, you know, like the very nature of, you know, man's motives or whatever, that's why it's considered timeless. It also helps that it's wildly entertaining. But you know, it's such a packed movie.
It really is.
It's got really everything. I mean, if you think about it, if you could point to anything in any movie, and it's in there. I mean, besides, like, I guess, like, futuristic sci-fi or whatever, you know, like I was saying before, it's got romance, it's got comedy, it's got even almost like horror aspects. Like, the intensity really rises in some of the certain scenes. It's got, obviously, I'd consider it a war film first, like you'd say. But like I was saying before, everything feels so balanced, nothing takes away from it, and that's what makes it really timeless.
If I may too, on that note, like you mentioned earlier, like how it was so packed but so entertaining. Like I think it's so interesting how this movie is such a deep movie, but nevertheless, it is entertaining. Like, but I can't think.
Oh yeah.
I can't think of a movie today. Like, again, our modern contemporary example would be, I guess, Avengers, and I mean, I haven't done a deep dive on thematic and philosophical nature of Avengers, but I nevertheless, like, my last viewing of Infinity War didn't leave me walking away from the theater like, wow, I wonder why man does this. I wonder why we do this. Like, I was like, oh yeah, Iron Man snapped his fingers and it was great. Like it's a little shallow. Like, no offense, again, like, but I don't want to be a Martin
that's
Scorsese,
what it. Yeah, exactly. It's Yeah, Martin Scorsese, theme park rides, right? But I think there's a little bit of truth in what Scorsese says about the Marvel films. Again, I don't think Marvel films are any less valuable as, like Seven Samurai. It's art. At the end of the day, it's art. Whether it's pure art from Kurosawa or factory art from Marvel. No, I'm just kidding. But it knows what it is. The Marvel movies, I don't think they're trying to be anything like... They're not trying to be Seven Samurai, right? They know what they are. They're fun movies. They're entertaining movies. But then you get a movie like Seven Samurai that is just as entertaining, if not more, but it's even, like, deeper. And, that's what... Like, a film, like... It's even, I would consider even more better in Parasite in that when you're watching... Let me just compare the two real quick. Like, Parasite, I like to think of as filmers, right? You watch it and you're entertained by it, and you don't really have to go into deep analysis to understand the film too much or take something away from it, right? You could either have that part of Parasite, just enjoy it, or you could go into it and deepen and analyze it or whatever, right? And you can get that enjoyment out of it. But then you get a movie like Seven Samurai that as you're watching it, these themes, these ideas come together.
Yes.
And even if you don't want to do the deep analysis, you still feel it. Even if you don't understand specifically, you feel you're forced to feel the themes while also being wildly entertained by the film, and that's what makes it so great.
Again,
that's what makes it so great.
And you're so right, because like I think it's such an important fact. I think it's an important event that Kurosawa left with the conversation between the two samurai, and how it's not even a conversation. It's a mere statement that the townsman won and that the samurai lost, and he left it there. Like, he didn't really pick it up after that.
Oh yeah, no.
And I think it's such a haunting image where he pans up to the gravestones, and you hear the townspeople singing of joy and celebration in the background.
Right.
And like it begs the audience to question the cost of what they've done. The moralities
of it all.
Yeah. So like, is this was it a worthy task to take under? Was it truly worth it? And I think it's beautifully written. It's almost poetry, if you will. Really I think it is poetry.
Oh yeah. Oh, it is. Yeah. It is. I mean, this is literally art. I mean, this is art was meant to do, right? And not all art has to make a huge statement like Seven Samurai does. But when you get a film like this that does, it's just so great, and that's why.
And
it's timeless.
I think he's able to do it, not only because of this one reason, obviously because of his directing styles, his ability. Enough of the preface. Point is, like, I think just the fact that it is 3.5 hours long, it gives him liberty to explore these types of these topics and themes that a lot of movies can't really do today because of that time limit.
They can't even do it in an hour and a half. Actually, that was dumb for me to say. No, but not 1 second is wasted. Like, it earns the 3.5 hour runtime. Like, he really does use it, and because, like you were saying, it's so personal. Like, it's like, yeah, dude, have 7 hours. I don't care. Like, this is awesome. Like, this is how you use every.
Yes.
He's taken everything from filmmaking, whether it's cinematography, whether it's the implementation of score, performances, directing the actor, making an action sequence, discovering themes, and he takes it all to his advantage and really just delivers and drives it home on every aspect. He entertains the audience while he does it. He totally deserves that 3.5 hour runtime, and that's what makes him such an influential director. And
he takes so much time to discover other characters, like natures themselves. Like again, the villager who starts with R. Again, I'm forgetting his name. Sorry, but like in the beginning of his character, he wants to defend his town. And then when the samurai come over and they sleep in his hut, and the drunk samurai discovers the what do you call it? Like the blouse, and he sniffs the blouse, and he like makes fun of him, and like his wife, he gets super emotional.
Yeah.
He hides it and runs away, and you left wondering, well, why is he so upset about this? Later down the line in the movie, they make a joke about his wife again. He gets upset and runs away again. You're left wondering, why is he so upset about marriage? And then when they raid the bandits, and they set the hut on fire, and the woman who walks out and he walks towards her, and they freeze for a moment and they look. I don't know if anyone else. Tommy, did you think off the bat that's his wife?
No.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Like a few seconds.
Did you?
Well, I mean, I don't know. If this is maybe like because I did my second time watching it. I don't necessarily remember everything that happened off my first viewing. So when I saw that scene, I forgot exactly that she was his wife. And when I saw him look at her, and when I saw her look at him, I was like, "Oh my God, they're married. That's his wife." And I was like, "No."
Yeah. And no, you can finish actually because I might change a bit.
I got so like, "Oh my God, that makes so much sense why he wants to kill the bandits so badly. That makes so much sense why he's so emotional about it because she's sleeping with the bandits. Like it hurts him so deeply."
Exactly.
And I think like too that also speaks real quick just to delve back in theme too I know this is gonna open a thread but like back to the duel with the bamboo guy and the throwaway back to the duel with the samurai and the throwaway character with the bamboo sticks and it goes to steel like the characters who viewed it the two samurai who saw it they exchanged dialogue real quick and he said something about like a samurai pushing his limits and to test his skill and he perished because of it right. And then I think that was a perfect, like, almost, not a foreshadowing, but a thematic foreshadow, if you will. Because here you are.
Foreshadowing.
Here
you
are
with...
a
show I want to talk about that foreshadow something, but yeah, you finish.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But, like...
like,
here you are with these people who are... With the villagers who are going to... Who have an opportunity to strike the bandits and dwindle their forces, and they go there and they burn down the huts, and this push of force, if you will, costs them a samurai. Like when they burn down the hut, and the villager confronts his wife when she walks out of the hut, that he has to get dragged away by another samurai, and when he gets dragged away by the samurai gets shot because this test of one's skill cost him his life. And I think again, like full circle. Again, Kurosawa is just fantastic at being able to intertwine all these themes and
and that full circle. Literally, like the opening shot is them right in the fields, and then the end it finishes up with them in the fields. And that foreshadowing you were talking about, there's a shot. It's when I don't think it's one of the samurais. It's an old guy, and he asks one of the samurai. He's like. They have 3 samurais at that point.
Yes,
I'm pretty sure, and they're trying to find the 4th. And he asks them something along the lines of, how are the other samurais gonna be? And then that shot when he says that line, behind them are the graves, are the stones, the hill with the stones that is seen in that like last shot. So it's like a foreshadow. Like how are they gonna be? They're gonna be dead. Like that's what they're gonna be. You know, like so that. Like. Yeah, nice. And I noticed that. And the only reason I picked up on that is because I already knew the final shot going in because I had it spoiled for me or whatever, but I know,
Tommy.
But because I know, but because I had that final shot, I knew what that final shot was. When I saw it in that shot, when he said that line, I was like, "Oh, that's some crazy foreshadowing."
Whoa,
dude.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's like super meta. No, but and going back to that scene when it's revealed kind of that like it's his wife at the barn. That whole action scene. Because what this film is essentially is a huge build-up, right, to that final battle. They're them, like training, finding the samurais. But in those action scenes, because again, going back to there's 30 specific bandits they have to take down. Each action scene is so much more intense because most of it is just like us having goofs with these characters and like them being charming, us getting attached to them, seeing them train and seeing the different dynamics between them. Most of this movie isn't killing, there's certain scenes, and when it gets to those scenes, that's why it's so much more intense and like you're so much more focused on the scenes because they're not just like handed out loosely by Kurosawa. Like he knows where he's gonna place them. He knows the stakes of at hand at those specific scenes, and I love that scene so much when they're burning down the not that I like seeing people die, but like
I don't know about that,
Tommy. But it's just so awesome because it's like
it's
a
impactful.
build-up. You see these people, you see these people training. You see these people like they're talking about. They're like, oh, when are they gonna come or whatever? And then they go to that barn. They're getting ready. You're like, oh, do we burn it down? You're just like on the edge of your seat with them. You're like, oh my gosh, how's this gonna play out? Especially your first viewing of it when you don't know what's gonna happen. It's just and that's great writing.
Well, even my second viewing, right? Like just you're saying, like the amount of time, 3.5 hours again, like spent with these characters, you really develop a good understanding and a liking for them. So like each time, again, my second viewing of it, still on my second, like each time a second, oh my god, I'm jumbling my words here. Each time a samurai falls, I gasp every time. Like I was like, no,
exactly.
What? Like
it really hits you.
I'm heartstruck, and it sucks. Like I don't want them to die, and I don't want them to remain dead. Like I want Kurosawa to make a sequel and revive them.
Right? The Eighth Samurai. Yeah, and that's and that's why the first tag on Google when you search the movie's memorable characters, and that's for a reason. You get so attached to these characters, and when they die off, it's not just like, oh, okay. It's you actually feel it actually hits you. If you're in love with that kind of tone of the movie and you like what it's going for and you accept it for what it is, like,
but I don't even think like
it's gonna hit you
for what it is. Like he spends so much time being able to like express these characters in a way that I can't really. I can't find in a lot of contemporary cinema. I mean, like at least mainstream cinema. I just again, my favorite character when he died, my favorite character died, and it was the last two bandits left, and it wasn't even like he had a duel or anything. It was a gunshot that got him. It's just like
what's even more tragic.
Oh, it makes it more tragic. And when he stabs the final bandit, you're like, yes, get him. Like
exactly. It's so sad. It's just such a bittersweet moment. The way that and it's almost like he had those moments in mind. It's like, all right, I'm gonna make this scene where this guy stabs guy so satisfying. How am I gonna? Okay, I'm just gonna write this whole script. Like it's almost like, is that what he did? Because that moment is so awesome. It's such a bittersweet moment. But the emotions are just so present throughout the film.
Sorry, real quick too. Like I think like. Again, with the importance of the characters, I think the favorite the drunken samurai is a good example. Like just to take it just to take into account how important each character is too. Like especially his storyline, especially like the fact that he was a farmer who then hunted down a samurai. And I was upon my first viewing of the movie. I didn't know that he wasn't a samurai. But my second viewing, I knew all along that he wasn't a samurai, and he hated it. And he just despised the samurai. So it almost made me wonder as to why he's hunting down this one really good samurai. Like, is he trying to kill him? Maybe like does this samurai have a connection with his past? Because as we know now, right? Because when the drunken samurai held the baby in his hands in the burning mill. He says, "This is how I was like a baby. Like his village was destroyed by samurai, and he was a baby left for dead." And I think like it's just a great way just to show like Akira Kurosawa just is able to use the events of the story to bring the characters' personalities and their histories out. What do you have?
And show the effects of war not only as we're seeing it in the present time, but also in the past, right? And it's also shown in how he deals with the romance in the script. How you can see a lot of different romantic relationships, whether it's the young samurai and the girl who are kind of developing this relationship, right? Or whether it's the guy and his wife who it's kind of like a past relationship. But all these things are linked because they're damaged by the effects of war, right? The effects of violence. And it's not just a present thing. It's a thing that is in the past. It's happening now. It's going to happen in the future. And I think that's a great way to kind of write your script around that theme.
I think it's so funny you picked that up, because like Kurosawa went on to direct in 1980. Was it 85? Yeah, 1985. A movie called Rand, my third favorite Kurosawa film. I love Rand, and you have to watch it too if you ask me. I'm not going to go on a big rant about it, but again, another war movie, and it's just like.
Please do, Cash.
All right, if you want me to, like, Rand basically deals with like the repercussions of war, and so Rand follows a king of a realm, in feudal Japan, and he's the king of the realm specifically because he was able to wage war on all the tribes in this area, and he tied them together, and he created one unified area because of the war, and he won. And so, but basically, he swims in the wake of his decisions. Now, basically, his sons try to overthrow him because what they say to him is, "You expect us not to wage war when all we know is war." And like, it's very, very interesting that like Kurosawa is so in touch with the effects of just like violent behavior and how it just spans over years. And I think just again that post World War II mentality that just I think really is just significant. Not significant. Well, that too, but also just prevalent in his movies and his themes, and especially in this one too. Sorry, just the violent actions that were brought about by the samurai are sadly framed in the minds of these villagers to such a traumatic extent that they run away from the samurai when they enter the village. That the father won't let his daughter even look like a girl because he's afraid that the samurai, no matter what, will rape his daughter.
That seems insane.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, right. Oh, and you want to talk about great foreshadowing? When she's introduced, she's holding her hair. And she's like, "What do you want, father?"
Wow. Yeah. I didn't realize that. Wow.
So he does a lot with like just past violent decisions and how it just impacts today's, or not today's, but it impacts. It's a ripple effect. He really focuses on the ripple effect of just human nature, and it's very.
And this is not a film that could be made by someone if it wasn't personal. Like you said, it is a very personal film, and this cannot be made by. I feel like it wouldn't feel as impactful and meaningful and real if it wasn't by someone who actually cared about the things that they were writing about, right? Like, this is not something you're going to get at a huge Hollywood studio. I'm sorry, but it's just not going to happen. Well, not that they've made war movies, but but yeah, exactly. And
Milan's a war movie.
Yeah, and I can't wait. Oh gosh. This is. I can't wait to discuss Come and See, because there's so many similarities between this and Come and See, and again, and the director of Come and See also lived through the war that you see in that movie. Anyway, but I don't want to talk about that. We'll save that for that. But
real quick too, Tommy, if you don't mind me asking, like I know you love talking about the composure of music within film. So I think I want to know your thoughts about the music in this movie, because I have a few of my own thoughts as well. But I want to know what you think.
Okay, I liked it. I mean, I thought it worked really well.
Was there anything notable?
I think it complemented. Notable in terms of like themes that stuck out, not really.
I don't know.
I just remember in the moment, like the theme, the score did complement scenes really well.
Okay.
Especially because it is, it deals with that culture, like that's specifically music from Japanese culture, and the way that he's able to tie that in, it really it feels all the more authentic and real. But what do you have any like Sean opinions?
Well, I love the theme as well. And same thing with you. What your thoughts on it is like I can't necessarily find like a thematic I guess like
recurrent theme.
Well, yeah, like I couldn't find a thematic beacon within these music pieces that necessarily speak to what is going on in a sense, but yeah, they complement the scenes very well, and I think like a great scene with the combination of the music is when they're harvesting all the wheat and the barley and whatever, and the cheerful music's going about, like he's able just to create a really fun atmosphere, and like again, it's so interesting how he's able just to walk this tightrope between between a very nasty threatening situation with levity and fun and joy, and I think I think again that speaks to what he's trying to talk about thematically with just the idea of like with the best times come the worst times and vice versa. I think this challenge in a sense brings about the best out of everybody. And
this wouldn't be the same film at all if it was just some kind of bleak, depressing movie about war. Yeah, it really deals with everything that people can feel during war, whether they're trying to cathartically release their emotions of these
or salvage hope
through laughter. Yep. So be it. Yeah. That's what happens in war.
I'm sorry, Tommy. Go ahead.
No. Yeah, that was pretty much my thoughts.
You're saying too, like even with laughter, like the one character who was introduced through chopping wood, the comedy character, the comedic relief of the whole entire movie, aside from the drunken guy.
Yeah.
Like when he dies and he says, and they're all mourning by his grave, and they say, he would help us through the worst of times. Because he was so happy, he was so joyful.
Yeah.
Like he focuses a lot on these characters and these events that are very joyful and happy. That almost bring a sense of relief to everybody who are swamped in this very depressing scenario. Like there's nothing joyful about defending your town against bandits who are about to kill and rape and murder you. But nevertheless, though. He's able to...
he can pull off something of the drunken sailor shaking his butt at the other bandits, and it's funny. Yeah. It's not like something that feels out of place, because he already set up this character who is charming, and he has that comedic relief, and it's that perfect balance in between. Again, like I said before, nothing takes away, the comedy doesn't take away from the brutal intensity, and vice versa.
Because he's speaking to human nature, like he's speaking to the fact that we make the best of the worst times, and the worst times bring out the best times, and vice versa. Like it's very again poetic. It's just it's incredible.
poetic film, withstands the test of time, and yeah, classic. I'm glad I watched it. Do we have any more final thoughts that we want?
I think we covered it all. Tom. Well, not all, but we covered a good chunk of it, Tommy. I agree.
Oh yeah. 50 minutes, a bit more than 15, but I think it's fine. Right?
Wait, 50 minutes?
Yeah,
Woo!
50 minutes.
All right, enjoy, everybody.
Yeah, I feel bad. If you're watching at this point, bro, what are you doing? No, I'm kidding. No, yeah, and then next week or the next episode we'll be doing. Oh gosh, is it Taxi Driver? Right?
I believe so. Yes.
Taxi Driver, either Taxi Driver or Stalker. But yeah, so join us for that one if you enjoyed this one, and if you're, I mean, if you watched through this whole thing, you're clearly not just your average moviegoer. You have some kind of appreciation for film, I'd say. Yeah. Like if I would not watch like a 50-minute podcast about anything other than movies. Maybe something.
But
like, I don't know.
It's Seven Samurai. How can you not spend
it's 50 minutes
talking about Seven Samurai?
Dude. Yeah, it's got a lot going for it, and very ambitious film, and I'm glad we talked about it. I think we covered a lot.
Yep.
And thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank you.
This was me and Cassius talking about Seven Samurai, the Gauntlet Podcast, and we'll be back here next episode for Taxi Driver.
Yes.
So join us then.
Adios.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Bye.